As part of a science project, groups of Year 3 children from Canterbury Cross Primary School have visited a watermill to identify the different materials used and to investigate their properties. Teacher Claire James has enlisted the help of Jane Turner from the Science Learning Centre and the mill's education officer, Elvin Morris, both of whom have kindly agreed to come into school to work with the children on the follow-up activities. Canterbury Cross Primary is in Birchfield, Birmingham, a thriving school with a mostly Asian intake of children from the surrounding area. Claire set up her classroom with a carousel of activities, including water play, a clay table, scratch test investigations, a material trail display, and the very helpful bonus of Elvin and his model water wheel and grindstone. All these activities have been inspired by visiting the mill, and we'll discover just how effective they've been when Jane and Claire review the lesson later. So, what are the Walt and Wilfs of today's lesson?
Group classify materials.
Excellent. And our other ones, Zobia?
Know that materials can be changed.
Well done. And who can tell me what I'm looking for? There's lots of Wilfs today.
Make observations.
Make observations.
Make comparisons.
Make comparisons.
Make a fair test.
Make a fair test.
Know what equipment to use. Use equipment safely.
Claire wanted to bring the experiences of the watermill into the classroom, and not surprisingly, the children can't wait to get their hands on the model water wheel. Claire's hoping that in doing so, they'll begin to understand more of what water can do.
You know, Mrs. James talked about doing investigations.
Yeah.
I want you to find out a little bit about how this water wheel works. You think you can do that for me?
What's you doing?
Good lad, that's it. Put some more in the tank at the top. If I put that water there, it's turning the water wheel round, and then where's it going to?
In the tank.
It's coming down to the bottom, that's right. I think I'm going to check this.
The children are using the close-up photos they took of the materials at the mill to replicate the textures in clay. It will hopefully get them to think about the different types of materials that were used in constructing the mill. Jane's group are investigating the properties of different materials by doing scratch tests. The material samples include balsa wood, marble, slate and polystyrene.
What's the difference between these two piles?
One scratches and the other one doesn't scratch.
Now we're going to try and do something really scientific, and we're going to see which is the very softest and which is the very hardest. Now I'd like a prediction from you, out of all these materials, which one do you think is going to be the softest? Let's see then if one of the other materials can scratch this one. So is the metal harder or is the rock harder? No, I'm not sure there. This is a bit of a tricky question. Has it made a scratch or has it just rubbed some of this rock away? Is it harder than that one? So should it go next to it?
No.
Where should we put it then? In the middle. I think it goes in the middle. Yeah. Did it make a mark? So we've got 4 materials here in order, haven't we? This was our softest. Where do you think the marble's going to go?
Back at the water wheel, Elvin is prompting the children to investigate how it might be used to move a mass, which they've attached with string to the hub of the wheel.
Have you got it tied on yet? Do you think this water wheel can move a kilogram weight? Let's put some more water on. Yes, it's moving that, a 1 kilogram weight, look.
It's going down, going down, you can't do it again.
The children saw how the big grindstones work at the mill. Now they're having a go themselves using Elvin's model. And opportunity to understand that even these small stones are heavy and hard enough to grind up the wheat.
Not all sandstones are. Some sandstones soft. What we're going to do now is grind up the seeds
I know that.
from the wheat. Who's going to be first? How would you like to do that all day long?
Yeah.
If you look very carefully, can you see it's coming out all around the edge of the stone?
And we've written a list here.
Claire goes over the list of materials the children found at the mill.
Now, one thing you got a bit confused about was objects and materials. And we've got to make sure that we know the difference. What's this? A snail. Scissors, well done. Who can tell me what materials they're made out of? Adam.
Metal and plastic.
Well done. When we went to the mill, do you remember we did these? What were they?
Speech bubbles.
The children drew speech bubbles about the properties of the materials they discovered.
So we've got lots of speech bubbles there, but even better, we've got pictures of you holding the speech bubbles.
The aim is to use their photos to link the objects in the mill and the materials they're made of.
So what you're going to do is do a big piece of display work, a material trail.
Claire set up a water play area in the classroom, with plenty of real materials for the children to explore the exciting properties of water. Allowing them free play with the water provides a good opportunity to scientifically record their own investigations.
Water can take colour. 1, 2, 3. Maybe this 5.
At the scratch test table, scientific tests have established the hardness of materials. So, are the children able to apply what they've learnt?
Wood. Oh, well remembered. Limestone. Lead, which is a type of metal, and so which is our hardest one?
Which is the hardest?
And which one's the softest?
Palestine.
Right,
So
I
what
think.
would you use that for? Would you use that to make a millstone to grind wheat?
No.
Would you use that for a table? Why not?
Because wood is hard and you need wood.
And what about if I wanted to pack up my special computer I've just bought, really expensive computer, and I wrap it in the box, in the marble? Would that be a good idea?
No,
Why not?
Your computer will get scratched
My
back.
computer would get scratched, wouldn't it? It wouldn't be a very nice, expensive computer then, would it?
It's time to find out how the learning's been going in today's lesson. Claire's asked each group to report back to the rest of the class.
They use the rucksacks as fabric because the fabric is flexible. What were you making models of? We're making textures with the clay. We needed to add water to make the clay soft. We were predicting if the shapes scratched or not scratched. We were scratching the stone to find out which one was the hardest. We had to put them in water.
That's it. Now look at the maths, children. What's happening to the string? We were putting the seeds inside that hole and we were just turning it round and round. It turned into little pieces and comes out. Right, Right, thank you, John. You seem to learn an awful lot today. And not only that, you've worked really, really hard. Next time we do science, we're doing our materials work, hopefully you'll remember some of the things that you've learnt today. Well done, you've done really well.
After a fun-packed morning, how do Claire and Jane feel the lesson went?
I think it was interesting that when we gave them sort of freedom to play with the water, they really enjoyed it. They didn't focus very clearly on the questions. But I think that's because often we expect too much. They're year threes and they haven't played in the water tray for ages. And it's
they just want to go out and play, and then they are learning at the same time.
Yeah.
I think the mill was a great stimulus for them, and you can see from this great display work that they've actually got a lot from it. And I think as well what was important that we managed to get over some of those misconceptions.
There were a few bits that got a bit tangled, that difference between object and material, which they found hard to distinguish in some respects. So this has helped them to sort that out.
Yeah, definitely. And the scientific vocabulary. I really focused in on that today. And I think the speech bubbles were very effective. They've really enjoyed that activity, and I think the way it is on the display, it looks really effective. It's a good way that they don't have to write that much.
Exactly.
And they get the ideas down. So, no, I was very pleased with this group. We did have a challenging group, and it did take some time for some of them to actually understand.
So we've got 4 materials here in order, haven't we? This was our softest. Where do you think the marble's going to go?
But it's just great there because you've covered really all the WILFs. They've made observations, they've predicted, they've used equipment safely, and I just think all the time it's come from them, and I think that's really
It did
good.
come from them. They raised the questions. It was totally their idea about how we should sort them. They needed a bit of guidance in actually formulating a test that would come out with a genuine outcome.
And here we've got the clay table.
Yeah, they enjoyed doing this.
They
it was
did.
quite a big thing to do on their own, really.
I think obviously next time if I did it I would definitely have a TA or myself with them, because although they've made pretty patterns, I'm not sure that they actually understood the textures.
Benefits were actually not about learning about these materials, but about learning about clay. And it may be because these are flat photographs.
Yeah, if we went to the mill and maybe did rubbings.
Yeah, I think if they'd actually felt the thing themselves, rather than just the photographs, if they'd rubbed it with a crayon,
it would have made a real difference.
They'd have had something more to copy. This was your real success, really. This is such a fantastic model, and having this.
Definitely.
And that's where the real benefit comes of working closely with the museum.
Having those sort of resources brought into the classroom when you're normally used to like your bog standard sort of...
I mean, stuff like this is fine, but the big thing the big thing of this was that you could connect to drive, this to the drive, so they could actually see that by turning that wheel, there was energy that you could do something else, so it could make something work.
The water can actually do something then.
Which helps with that sort of understanding of the water wheel turn the millstone, and they needed to see it doing something to understand that was happening, and this worked really well.
And they loved this as well, and they loved the fact that they could put the grain in and actually grind it and actually see the end product, see the flour coming out.
And having Elvin to do it with them made a big difference as well.
Yeah.
What's been really useful in this case has been the collaboration between the 3 agencies involved, the school, the Science Learning Centre and us, the museums. And I think that's made it a really fruitful project.